Hey everybody, welcome to Hear Us Out. I'm Patrick.
And I'm Paul. How's it going?
Pretty good, my friend. We've just completely abandoned our editorial skills altogether because I wanted to try an experiment that you're happily going with me on, and it's viewers' choice night. We're taking it from the people out there to say, what do you want to talk about? Or more importantly, what topics do you want to have us talk about? So if you're out there in the internet lands and you have a question that pops to your mind or a topic that pops to your mind, throw it into the chat live or even later on if you add it as a comment. We'll be doing more of these shows. But if you are with us live, feel free to debate what we're saying. And when I say debate, know that you can have your opinion, but we'll always be right.
Which is I'll be right. Patrick will also be right. But
On
one
occasion.
of us will be. But yeah, so tonight we're going to be talking about random things that have been suggested to us in either polls or which is will be in the live chat as well. Which is with that said, what is going to be our first point of topic?
Well, Paul, we've I put out a community post earlier in the week, and we've had some responses. And actually, if you wouldn't mind just double checking in case anybody's replied on Twitter in the last little while, but there was nothing new there about an hour ago. Uh, we've had some great suggestions, and the first suggested topic, which is what we're going to kick off with, is, and I'm going to read this. It was from Pop Culture 33. Thank you very much, Pop. It's so wonderful to hear from you again. Please let us know what you've got going on and what channels you're showing up on. Anytime you're doing something, send us a link. We want to hype it. Um, and the question is, or the suggested topic is, how Zack Snyder and Wes Anderson are the same director. They have a unique style, and it's not for everyone. That's okay. Not all movies are made for everyone. Completely agree with that sentiment. But also, and myself and Paul talked about this, it's funny that you should mention that. A lot of the things that were sent into us, we have, in one way or another, going back to our notes, we've had similar topics to this. And at one point, we were going to do something about Wes Anderson and Paul W.S. Anderson, who I'll mention again in a moment, being two sides of the same coin because they have very distinct styles and they're not for everybody. But sticking to your point, Pop, let's have a little look at. So Snyder and Wes Anderson, on the face of it, Paul, they're not the same.
No.
They're not the exact same person.
Yeah, surface level, which was definitely have chosen different topics to go along with their movies and stuff like that. But deeper down, yeah, stylized and universally kind of like marmalade.
Yeah, or
You know,
Marmite, is it? Yeah, the whole
marmite,
love it
marmite.
or hate it. Well, it's funny because when you say stylized, or they have every director has their own style. It's not only down to these two or the other two that I'm going to mention in a moment. Spielberg has his own way. You can tell you're watching a Nolan film, but maybe not as much. Some people are just, it's even slightly narrower. Watching a Snyder movie, you're watching a Snyder movie, like universally. And I've got up on screen just a few of his kind of trademark things. And this is, again, this is not a bad thing. We're not criticizing these directors. Having your own style is not a bad thing. Having moves or cast that you work well with, things that you're good at. Edgar Wright isn't being talked about. You can spot an Edgar Wright movie by its composition of editing alone. Um,
Yeah,
but one of the things that Snyder does is you're going to get interesting title sequences, some opening credit sequences. I've chosen Sucker Punch and Watchmen here. I think the Watchmen one is legendary at this stage. Times they are changing, and how it showed history during the title sequence. But one of the other kind of big notes for me when it comes to Snyder is he loves or isn't afraid of bold color choices, going into colors and just really taking it over. I'm going to try and pull up some more imagery. The 300, super stylized. Batman v Superman, super stylized. He does also have a thing for rain, I've noticed.
yeah,
And that
yeah.
hadn't dawned on me early, but thinking about it in the last hour, I'm like, yeah, there's quite a bit of. He does like a bit of rain, well lit rain too.
I think it's just a everything looks a certain way in rain. Like, everything looks grimier or kind of, I guess, sheeny,
Yeah.
which is when wet, um, which sounds creepier when I say it. Um,
Yeah, nobody clipped that. Well, Paul, and that's the thing. So we can't talk about Snyder nonstop without moving on to Wes Anderson. But so if you're talking Snyder, you've got your color choices. He's got his own visual style. A little thing like unique title sequences. And for me, it's he has a couple of camera moves that he loves. He loves a speed ramp. He loves something going from fast to slow, catching
yeah,
a chin with a punch, and then back to fast. Sucker Punch, Watchmen, Batman v Superman, you name it, he's done that. He's a big fan of the speed ramp. And it really is, it's one of those Snyder things. It's like an explosion in a Michael Bay movie. Um, they just go well together.
yeah. There's a couple of other kind of like stylized things that he chooses, which is he chooses kind of muted palettes, from a lot of his stuff, um, but adds a kind of like contrastic kind of color to that to kind of stand out more, on a lot of his stuff. The red capes within 300, which goes certain, the yellow face of the comedian, kind
Yeah.
of button, kind of thing is a big one here in this, which goes. Which is very connected to Wes Anderson's kind of, like, I guess, stylized view, which is also very visual in
Which
the sense
actually
of,
gives me a chance to pull Wes. Let's move over to Wes.
yeah, because his palette of choices, kind of pastel. It's not as muted. It's not muted at all. It's very much going into the kind of like more colorful, kind of aspect, but it doesn't in any way go past a certain brightness. Together, I think the kind of, as you say, pastel kind of like color palettes that he uses, I think together they make it brighter. But overall, one color does not over brighten the other, in his kind of, choice of visual stylized kind of aid,
Yeah.
kind of thing. So it is an interesting. The color palettes between the two of them are very interesting because they're very much similar in ways, in the sense that, like, Zack Snyder's muted colors with one kind of contrasting kind of, accented color, whereas, um, Wes Anderson has such a good color palette together that they brighten everything up together. But he will always choose one specific color to kind of, overrule everything within a scene.
Yeah.
As you can see there with um, the red kind of like, pigeonholes in the back, or the blue kind of, color of the sky with the people in the blue suits,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
which goes the orange in the suit of the guy at top. So
Well, they're super color driven, and to Pop's original suggestion that they're the same director and they're not for everybody. Yeah, Wes Anderson. Let's face it, completely different style, but again, very much of his own making. Very much loves a quirky costume, loves a over the top stylization in some ways. That's kind of laid into things like Grand Budapest Hotel is a great example. And much like Snyder, he has the Wes Anderson shots. He has the whip pan. He loves doing. Oh, you're looking here. Now you're looking here. You're looking back over here again. And he loves a tracking shot. There's nothing quite like him following somebody with a camera. A lot of dead centering. You can tell you're watching Wes, even if it was in black and white. Same thing can be said for Zack Snyder. If
mm,
even if you took their love of color away, you'd still be able to tell by so many other things. So I think it was a really, really good comment from pop culture. Um, and the two that I would throw in, already mentioned Paul W.S. Anderson. Him and Tim Burton, I'm going to juxtapose in a weird way. For those of you who don't remember Paul W.S. Anderson, think Death Race, think all the Resident Evil movies, etc., etc. Very different to Wes Anderson.
mm,
But like I say, they have a style. He's never seen a top down kind of sky shot of a logo that he didn't like, and they'll usually appear 5 or 6 times. And Paul, it would be remiss of me not to mention his love of hallways and tunnels, with your beloved Event Horizon maybe being the,
Yeah.
it was one of his earliest movies. I'm going to say it might have been the catalyst for that. I'm pretty good if you give me a tunnel or a hallway.
He loves building his set pieces that are claustrophobic in a way, and that kind of tell a give you a little bit more of a kind of understanding of the world around it. Because the laser hallway in Resident Evil 1, and sequential other Resident Evils as it reappears, the meat grinder hallway in which is Event Horizon
Yeah.
is also very stylized, very very set PC kind of thing. It's the fact is that it's like in our psyche, I think nothing's creepier than a hallway, and like just a nondescript, not well lit hallway is always going to be weird. I think it's very
Yeah.
traditional, very classical. But then in adding like little aspects of kind of changes into it, make it a little bit more creepier. And I think he does those well. Um,
I think Event Horizon never left. If you watch, and those of you out there shouting, well, Resident Evil, the game had, hallway lasers, blah, 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 whatever. Here's Resident Evil was a bunch of hallways, the game, I mean. So that can be forgiven. But watch any of his movies. Alien versus Predator, big tunnel dug through. Like, it is a visual motif of his that he uses really well. Again,
mhm.
not all of this sounds positive, but I think to be fair, he's got a few moves that work for him, and he's not afraid to keep going for them. But when you are next time you're watching a Paul W.S. Anderson movie, just try and count the hallway/tunnel shots, and you'll find that once you're at 5, you're probably only still into the second act. It is surprising. It's quite the hit rate for anybody. So I said I compare him to Tim Burton. That's so Pop. I said I had 2 surprise mentions when you mentioned Zack Snyder and Wes Anderson. Tim Burton, much like Paul W.S. Anderson, if Mila Jovovich is in it and is kicking ass, there's a good chance that it was W.S. Anderson. Tim Burton, if you're watching Johnny Depp looking a bit goth, or Helena Bonham Carter looking a bit goth, or anybody looking a bit goth, Paul, I think you said it well when you said you're watching a Tim Burton movie if it looks a bit Beetlejuice.
Yeah. If it reminds you of Beetlejuice, then it's probably Tim Burton.
Yeah,
That's the best way to describe it. It's like he took everything from that film and just
yeah.
continued on with that. That was just his way of doing everything.
And again, all directors and all creatives have, they have certain trademarks or telltale signs or whatever it might be, some more than others. I don't think there's anything wrong with this. I think if you're good at something, you enjoy something, it's your style. Great painters, all the great artists have had their own style. Some of the greatest artists have messed with more than one style. I will say that. Um, I don't see it as an insult or an accolade either way. I think it's sometimes just a fact.
Well, that kind of stylized look within a movie, Wes Anderson or Tim Burton, Snyder, or anything like that. I think we go to the movies to see that. That's the one of the draws for us towards some of these directors. Is the sense is that we know what we're getting into. We're getting into a world like Tim Burton, Sleepy Hollow, or which goes shadows or anything like that. We know what we're getting into. It's familiar in a sense. We also obviously must enjoy some of that kind of aesthetic in the reason that we go to it, and it's the same for all the other ones. But I do think that because of an aesthetic choice, on each of these parts of the director, those aesthetics will just gel with other people more often than not. Wes Anderson doesn't gel with me as much as like Tim Burton or Zack Snyder, kind of thing. Not saying that in any way his films are lesser in my eyes or anything. It's just that
Each to their own.
when I, yeah, it's kind of like I know when I'm watching a Wes Anderson film, and I think sometimes I feel harder to watch than I do a Tim Burton film.
And
Um,
Do you ever feel that sometimes, and this is particular to both the people you just mentioned, for me, the thing that puts me off Tim Burton, slightly more than Wes Anderson, but it happens when I'm watching Wes Anderson work as well. I'm just like, pull it back 5%. If it was 5% less Wes Anderson, I would enjoy it a little bit more. And it's the same thing for me with Tim Burton. Like, I think Batman, the reason Tim Burton's Batman worked so well is I think he was forced a little to drop 5% to the Tim Burton because there had to be Batman there for him. But in some of his own stuff, it's like, I'm 100% Tim Burton. I think I'd love to see Wes Anderson just, having his wings not clipped but bent in slightly at the edges. Maybe get him to fly down one of W.S. Anderson's hallways. I don't know. But and it like same thing with Snyder when he gets it really wrong. I think it's because he's had nothing that caged him just enough to pull back a little bit. Use your style, but sometimes the overly stylized people, if they're let run too free,
Yeah.
it pulls me out a little bit, and it's why maybe none of these people are on my list of absolute favorite directors. I enjoy all their work in various different ways, but they're not going to be in the list of my top 5 of all time, sort of thing.
Yeah, I think oh, I don't want to say it, and I don't want to be, because I don't want it to come across as mean for this.
Oh,
I do find overly stylized visuals a gimmick.
can feel like a crutch.
Yeah, like that's the thing. Like I think the reason, and it's easy to like Spielberg and like Christopher Nolan and stuff like that. It's because that their visual aspect can change depending on the film's requirements, I guess would be the best way to describe it. Um, and they're also mostly kind of driven towards the performances and kind of story kind of aspects a little bit more. Not to say that in any way these directors aren't. It just feels that if you're focusing too much on kind of like staying within your kind of visual aesthetic, uh, that could take away a little bit from other aspects that you're also trying to focus in on. To me, because like I can't say how hard it would be. Obviously, I'm not, because I'm not a director. But if Wes Anderson is doing a piece in which two characters are talking to each other and they're trying to get through a very kind of plot heavy part, um, I wonder how much his attention is on their acting and the performance going on, and not how well and straight the spoons are in the corner of the room, kind of thing.
Yeah.
To me, it just feels like that. If your whole aesthetic or like a large portion of your kind of pull is that aesthetic, then I can't feel like your attention would not be off it for 5 seconds.
I hear where you're going with that. Well, actually, Paul, we should, before we move off this topic, we should say a little hi to everybody in the live comments. Hey, Brian, Mark, Pop, everybody who's joined us, thank you so much. Skimming some of the comments, Paul, some of what you've just said has come up. Pop said he's not the biggest fan of Snyder, but no need to bag on him. He realized and that's the great thing about your original topic choice. It also had not everybody has to make films that are for everybody, and not everybody's work has to be for everybody for it to be good or bad. And I think these are directors that cover that. If you want to say that, oh well, Paul W.S. Anderson, he's not in Wes Anderson or anybody else's league on this list. If you're into schlocky Death Race or Resident Evil movies, then he absolutely is. He's one of the better people doing that stuff out there. And Snyder is very Snyder. I happen to have a lot of time for Watchmen and some of his movies, and a lot less time for some of his other movies, particularly the recent Rebel Moon, which I thought was a car crash on top of a car crash. And like I say, Tim Burton, half his filmography annoys me. The other half I actually like. And again, it's whether or not it's gone to Tim Burton sometimes. But yeah, this is one of those things, neither positive nor negative as far as having a style. It's just sometimes it'll be for you, sometimes it won't. Any of the other comments stand out for you?
I I was just saying just that how it feels. That's how I feel about Snyder. Like Rebel Moon, all my friends that love it just talk about how it looks. not about the characters or the story. Same with Wes movies. It's often more about style. Yeah, it's like that's the thing. But I will say that that's the reason why we go to see those films is because those they have that style and they kind of have that draw towards us, for it. But like Rebel Moon is a bit of a difficult one because it. I was looking forward to it a large amount, because like it was the first kind of like amalgamation of a lot of science fiction kind of properties
Yeah, we were
in a
both
big
really looking forward
way.
to it.
Yeah, like I've been plugging it and obviously building up with you guys, like with you as well.
Yeah.
Um, it was the first time that we'd heard about a kind of original stake, and it was such a letdown, um, uh, which is just horrible. But I'm glad it exists because need to keep doing this. Like, if we don't keep trying to do amalgamations or original work kind of thing, we're never going to get anything new, and we're just going to rehash everything. Like, and I don't mean that it's completely brand new. I'm not naive enough to think that like, it doesn't. It is an amalgamation of a lot of other stories, kind of thing. But like, yeah, it's an upsetting thing, and yeah, most people I talk to are just like, it's so pretty, and I'm just like, it's not really that pretty. Um,
And sometimes I've given films a complete pass because I say, it's a terrible film, but I love watching it because it's so pretty. I have in fact been fine with things that are just pretty. I just usually point out that I only enjoy them for their prettiness. So it's horses for courses. Paul, I like to everybody in the live chat and Mark Tonks. I could see absolutely yourself and Brian are bailing in with the comments, and it's great. So don't forget to throw in questions or topics. It can be as simple as a Coke or Pepsi question or something much bigger. And I can see Brian says he's super opinionated. But just to close this, as it was Pop Culture's original submission, um, I will pick this one. I heard Nolan has people who tell him don't do that, and that's why he keeps working with them. More directors need that. That's a great point to close this one on because yes, to what I was saying, I think sometimes, and Paul, to your point, where people are overly fixed on their own aesthetic or style or tone or tempo, whatever it might be, not having other people in the room to help you see the wider picture can sometimes stop you hitting your absolute best. And with that, let's dip into a slightly smaller topic, Paul, that can go quicker. So let's see, because we're going to be taking a small break in about 5 minutes. Um, do you want to just do a few minutes on? We had a question from Solemn67, our good friend Colin. Great, thank you very much for submitting it. Thoughts on physical media? Do you still buy physical DVD, Blu-rays, etc., or do you prefer to just stream? I answered this online because my newsroom box set showed up very recently because I couldn't find my other discs, so I just went and bought them because I don't want to not have them in my home. I feel we've gone through how much I feel about Aaron Sorkin's work. So, what about
yeah.
you, Paul? What do you think? Physical media? Do you bother buying anymore, or do you just stream?
I do. And I think well, I do stream, but I do enjoy the box set kind of a little bit more, um, nowadays. Um, but I do find myself now going towards, I guess, more exclusivity, with kind of physical media, kind of thing. Like for games and stuff like that, since I'm primarily a PC player, it's a lot easier just to kind of buy things off Steam and stuff like that. So, anytime I kind of buy a physical game, it's more because it's either for a console,
Right.
or it's because it's got something in it that I'm kind of like, I really want to do that. For box sets with TV and movies, it's something similar. I've now gotten to the stage where I've now kind of I'm going to get like the 4K Blu-ray kind of extended edition thing that has like the 7 maps of like the region that I'm watching or something like that. That's how I kind of go now more with DVDs. If it's something that I have not seen and I do not know how I can get my hands on it, from streaming, and the only way I can get it through any kind of box set, it will automatically become a physical thing for me.
Yeah.
So
Well, I slowed down my collecting just because of size, etc. Storage over the years. And we've talked about this on the channel before. And actually, I did it with a Snyder movie once that that everybody else hates, and I have defended Sucker Punch. I'm not getting into it now, but I went to see it, and then I ordered it physical media. Just and I didn't know when I was going to watch it, but I once I know a movie that I like or that I have some respect for, once I see it get panned or get its ass kicked by critics, etc., sometimes I will just go, even if I wouldn't have otherwise, I will buy the physical copy to add that extra layer of support and say, hey, nobody else is going to support this thing. I will. It's why I'll go out of my way to see some smaller movies, kind of opening night in our cinemas, which has meant that I've had to go to some very small screens and see some very empty things, and make phone calls like I had to with Big Sick, Camille Nanjiani's first big movie. I think I was one of three people in the cinema, and we all practically talked to each other afterwards, going, "Isn't it great that somebody came out to support this?" But yeah, for me, Paul, I like streaming is convenient, but and
Hmm.
just so everybody knows, some columns on here. Last Save Loaded, go check them out. That's a video game and do movie podcasts. Um, so good recommendation there. Last Save Loaded, go check them out. You find them on Twitter too. Um, says even my local charity shop has stopped selling DVDs. The days of me going in and doing what I used to love doing, particularly in the latter days of the video store, which was bargain bin hunting for DVDs. I used to
Hmm.
love, they had the big vats where it's like, three DVDs for a fiver. I would I would be in there weekly and I'd come out with €10 worth of stuff. So I'd have like, 6, 7 DVDs, some of which never even really got opened, if I'm being honest. So it was probably wise that I didn't keep having that access. But now it is purely I will order online. I don't know the last time I went in somewhere to physically buy something because it's so difficult to do here now.
Yeah, because like Tower Records and HMV used to be our biggest kind of things, and
Yep.
now the only time I see them actually having kind of large amounts of DVDs or anything like that is in the UK.
And this is another one of pop culture suggestions, which, by the way, thank you for this. I'm reading into it as well. It was defend movies you don't like! Exclamation mark. And just for a little bit of history between us all here, anybody who's new, myself and pop culture and Paul, I'm dragging you into this with me. I'm not going to completely besmirch your reputation as much as mine may be, but I've been pretty hard on the Indiana Jones series after the third movie. I used to just be able to say Indiana Jones Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, um, which I refuse to acknowledge as an Indiana Jones movie. But now that they've made a fifth, and in my opinion, even worse movie,
Hmm.
I have to acknowledge that now there are two bad ones. Deep down, there's still only the original trilogy for me, but I recognize that the others exist. So, Paul, in a moment, I'm going to ask for 60 seconds to defend Indiana Jones movies that I don't like. But would you like to go first and see if there's anything that you. I think, let's see, what do you not like? Um, what have
Ready
you.
Player Ready Player One is a film that I don't like.
You have been vociferous, and I'm with you on that. I've been angry at it along with you. So yeah, can you find it in your heart to be happy about it?
Yeah. Well, I can definitely give you some positive kind of things of Ready Player One. It's it doesn't it's not its runtime is quite good. Um, it's
Starting with
visually
runtime. That's not good.
um, it's visually appealing. Um, it does try to tell a story a little bit more. It does try as long as it tries to keep with the original creators kind of like sorry, the Oasis's creators storyline, because it's a very kind of telling storyline within that kind of sphere. Like we both say that it should be 3 movies long, unusually so for a movie that for a series that actually is only one book. But we do think that there's enough in there to kind of play it. Um, but I do think that the original characters, the Oasis creators story specifically, is told very well, and it's very important towards the overall kind of plot, because it's a very lonely story, which is very important to mirror the loneliness of certain characters that are in the movie as well, kind of thing. Even though they're so that's the only,
I'm a
I
small
guess.
bit freaked out that you were able to be that positive about it. To be completely frank, I didn't think you were going to find it as natural. Uh, I know, you know that I know what you really feel about the movie, but I think if you had to pick some good points, I think you've picked the good points. Overall, still,
Yeah, I do think it still panders a massive amount of advertisement and merchandising for no apparent reason other than um, which was just to sell toys, and also to kind of pull on my heart. I know I'm
yeah,
going in the wrong way now.
yes, yes. See, okay, I got to cut you off there. So, Paul, shout at me when I hit 60 seconds because I'm going to try and speed run defending Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, also known as Indiana Jones 4. Oh gosh, does this movie disappoint me? However, the cast. There you go. There is no denying the cast, and I don't care what anybody says about Shia LaBeouf. Shia LaBeouf, good bloody actor. Honey Boo Boo, or not Honey Boo Boo, Honey Boy. Uh, Honey Boo Boo was a whole other person on TV way back. He has proven himself. Peanut Butter Falcon. He's proven himself to be a good actor. His career didn't ascend out of nowhere because he was just weird or a meme. He became a meme after people recognized him as somebody with talent. Whatever you can think about him personally, he is and was a talented actor. And I don't think it was the worst idea to have a generational story in Indiana Jones. I think bringing Marion back wasn't the worst idea either. You know, they'd done in the previous movies is like they brought in Sean Connery as his dad. Nobody was like, "Oh, how can you make it about any member of his family?" To hell with that. You're allowed to bring in a son. You're allowed to bring somebody back. They went an interesting way where he wasn't raiding something as much as he was returning something.
60 seconds.
Hmm?
60 seconds.
Oh gosh, okay. Kate Blanchett, great casting. I think she was wasted, but I can't say negative things. There's a top drawer actor also. Hurt was in this. The cast was strong, as much as I have issues with the story and the execution. But what do I really want to say without being mean? I know, and also, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny made it look even better. So one of the best things about Indiana Jones 4 is that it's now not the worst in the franchise by quite a long shot because Dial of Destiny was bad. And Paul, as a bonus, I'm going to defend Dial of Destiny
Oof.
with one spoiler. So spoiler warning. I actually think Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny was terrible. I actually think the cast let themselves down. I think Harrison Ford hasn't let himself down, and particularly in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. But one thing I'll say, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and I'm going to spoil plot, so fingers and ears. The fact that there was time travel involved, it gave them an opportunity to end the Indiana Jones story perfectly, and they completely looked that gift horse in the mouth. He could have easily been part of history by going back, being given free reign to jump around. You've even got that fine end credit scene, if you want, where it's back in one of the pyramids or somewhere, and you see a hat and a whip in all of the hieroglyphs or in some cave painting depiction, and you're like, yes, Indiana went off and had adventures through time. And that's it. I will. Oh yeah, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. The one big thing people always say is aliens. Oh, so ridiculous. All of the movies, like melting heads from the Ark of the Covenant, uh, you know, uh, Monkey Brain, everything in Temple of Doom. You chose wisely. You can say that some of the stuff is fantastical in every Indiana Jones movie. Just because the execution of the fourth film was bad, I think that's why the alien stood out as so bad. If it had been done well, much like nobody ever talks about some of the fantastical elements of the first three movies, people would have given the fourth one a break too. But still, it's kind of crap. Sorry, almost got out without saying it. How did I do? Marks out of 10, Paul.
You did pretty well. Yeah.
Great cast.
Um. Yeah. Yeah. Great cast. Yeah. Like, the Dial of Destiny is a real piece of work.
Yeah, I can't defend it any more than say that they had a good idea that they wasted.
Yeah, that's the worst. I think Crystal Skull. I think Crystal Skull has its faults and stuff like that. I think Dial of Destiny was just like, I think the problem was that it had great potential and ruined it, which is things that we hate a lot in this on this channel. Is the wasted potential of a movie.
Yeah. So, Paul, getting away from that, I want to check the comments to see if anybody's put in any things they wanted to talk about. Is there anything about anything we've just said before we go to? Because I see Brian has a comment about Chris Stuckman, and I think we should talk about that. Good job, you two. Good save, Patrick. I guess I just love indie. I don't hate 5, but it wasn't as good as 4. We can agree on that pop culture, but we can also agree. And part of my problem is I love indie too much, possibly. That I took the drop in quality a little too hard. Yeah, and
That's a
Colin says we all know how Harrison feels about it. Well, Harrison, grumpy's gonna grump. So
yeah. I think that people are. It's bad that to me 5 was real bad. That now I can look back on 4 and just went, I guess it's not that bad. Which is probably the only saving grace of the 5th one. Because I also am not as big of an Indiana Jones fan as probably a lot of other people.
that's true.
Kind of thing. So I guess I'm a little bit more kind of like, no, it was really good. The 3 films were very good. They were very enjoyable. So it should have stayed with form, and it hasn't. But 4 is now better than 5. So
there you go. Yeah. So 5 did 4 a favor. Indy 6, Brian says, to which I say, Indy, no, thank you. Or else, Indy, try something new. Continue, but let's let Harrison Ford hang the hat up, quite literally, once and for all.
I would like to see in the Indiana Jones universe essentially because Connolly was Indy's father, and they had an adventure together. I know that they had Mud, but like essentially having an homage where we have a new character, a new thing, go forward as not named under Indiana Jones or anything like that, but a new kind of like, I guess, treasure adventure hunter kind of thing, and have Indiana Jones come in as the dad. I think that would be a good way of kind of introducing a new character, because I think it would be letting that character they stand on their own, and then to give them more like, I guess, prestige is to have Indy come in and just be like, that's my son.
The genre ain't dead. I'd be with you, inspired by and go on about it. Make Raiders of the Lost Ark, make your movies where it's not Indiana Jones necessary. Make your stories and have it inspired by. I'd be cool with that. So, do you mind if we take Brian's question, Paul? I don't know if you have or have not seen or even are aware of Chris Stuckmann. So Brian's comment is, thoughts on Chris Stuckmann, who has got flack this week for not criticizing the new Marvel nonsense. Personally, I feel it's his channel. He can do what he likes with it. So quick recap for everybody. And Brian, I'm going to take you up on the Marvel nonsense part. It's actually Sony who made this one. This wasn't really Marvel. But also, I'm going to take you up on, I saw some comments on Twitter like, ugh, more Marvel bull crap. Hey, if it's not for you, it's not for you. It's not like we all sit there going, oh, more soccer on TV. There's soccer on TV and it's not for me, so I'm not going to give out about the fact that people like soccer. I will, however, say that this is one of those cases where Madam Web has jumped to international fame for being terrible. Absolutely terrible. And Chris Stuckmann, who was and still technically is a film reviewer, a long-time YouTuber, who I happen to like a lot and have a lot of respect for, he's slightly changed where he sits in the YouTube landscape because he's become a filmmaker himself. And I hope Shelby Oaks comes out this year, and I hope we all get to see it, and I hope it's really good. But he did make a statement previously saying that he wasn't going to necessarily talk about films where he was going to have to be completely negative as much. He wanted to, insert more positivity, and he was going to take a slightly different approach to things. And to Brian's comment of it's his channel, he can do what he likes. I couldn't believe it when I saw people were saying, "Oh, he's shilling for them," or he's going easy, saying this thing is great. Number one, they didn't watch his video because his video says, "Yeah, this thing's not good, but here's why I think some of this mightn't be good." And he wasn't giving anybody a get out of jail free card. He was giving he was hypothesizing. He was saying it felt like there was some studio interference here. It felt
Yeah.
like people were getting in the way when they shouldn't have. We've talked about that in relation to terrible movies ourselves, Paul. And we've never been forgiving the terrible movie. We've been
Yeah.
talking about maybe some of the reality behind it.
Yeah, like that's the strange thing because I know Chris Stuckmann, which is I haven't watched that video and I didn't know about this kind of and I'm gonna say this in the kind of controversy because it's really not kind of thing. My problem with the reviewer sphere of movies nowadays is that we've lost the fact that movies are meant to be in some way kind of escapism, and we are meant to reduce our essentially like our acceptance on a lot of stuff that goes around. So where in the hell does it say that we have to be like, I guess like voir kind of like naysayer reviewers who like this is my point. We have always tried to be positive as much as possible on this channel, and we've as you said, we've done that. We've done it where it's just like this film feels like it's had too much interference from money people, that the creative side was pushed back,
Yeah.
kind of thing. We've said those words, kind of thing. But where has reviewers now dreamt to be, in Ratatouille, the food critic that everybody hates, and they see him coming, and it's like, you know, everybody just doesn't want to deal with that person. When has that become the goal for movie reviewers?
I don't know.
Whereas usually it's about just having fun and kind of going, yeah, this isn't. There's a film called Mutant Chronicles. It's a Thomas Jade film. It's awful. I love it. I will defend it to the earth. If anyone goes, yes, but in filmmaking 101, well, I'll be like, yeah, but you can stuff filmmaking 101 because like we're not in a film class.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a film critic in the sense of, yes, but panning shot 203 wasn't as smooth as panning shot 3A1. Like, it baffles me nowadays when people have decided that, yeah, and also when their favorite critic isn't on their side, it's another thing. It's just like, you do know that their job is essentially to be that person.
Yeah.
You don't need to agree or disagree with them. You're not an army. You're not following their word. You're watching them to see what their opinion is on us.
It's true. And that's why like this thing hits on two levels. I haven't seen Madam Web. You haven't either. I'm assuming you would have told me
not
had you
yet.
gone to see it. But like before it came out, I was one of those people going, I really doubt this is going to be that good. Trailer doesn't look that good. I don't know. I'm not sure if Sony have really got their head around how to do this. Morbius, which I said I had heard was terrible, and I laughed along with people who were saying they'd saw it and were like, "Oh God, it's awful." I paid money to rent and see it before I would ever go and say, "Here's my thoughts on it." Now, as it turns out, I didn't think it was very good either. Okay, to be expected, but not always. I watched all of Breaking Bad just so I could have a conversation with someone, and I mean all of it. Hadn't watched any of it. I watched all the seasons just because somebody told me it was the greatest TV show ever made. I ended up really finding problems with it that I didn't think the first season was. I was surprised that they got more seasons. I know I'm alone in that thought. Indiana Jones 4, I just said nice things about, and I've been very vocal that I don't love it. And now I don't dislike it that heavily. There's a bit of messing around here, a bit of joking going on. Dial of Destiny, I genuinely was disappointed more in. But the point is, you can give your opinion, Paul. I can give my opinion. But if somebody else says, well, I liked it, if either one was to go, well, you're wrong or stupid for liking it,
Yeah.
that elevates us straight to like executive lounge of asshole. Like we are
Yeah.
front of the airplane, frequent flyers on asshole airways. Problem is, we've turned down the idea of getting more views. We've openly had the conversation with each other of, you know what would really work right now? If we were mean, nasty, or horrible about X, Y, and Z, we knew that it would do better. And we decided not to. In this case, Chris Stuckmann, who's been around since the start of doing YouTube video movie reviews, came out and said, yeah, everybody's having a go at Madam Web. I'm just going to talk about some things I think on his channel. And everybody found a way to inject themselves into, you're not on the hate train with the rest of us. Why aren't you on the hate train with the rest of us? You're not saying it's good, so we can't just say you're stupid, which is what people have wanted to do in the past when somebody's popped their head up and gone, you know that film you all dislike? I like it. Everybody is like, yay, sharpen the knives. Get the sniper rifle out. Let's get them. Oh, the only bigger sin is, I'm not saying it was good, but I'm actually not going to say, I'm not going to talk about it negatively when everybody else is. I'd like to just go a third direction. Then it's like, wow, you're not with us or against us. Why do you even exist? And that's kind of the way the world's become. And I think it's utter bullshit. So apologies for the language for any younger viewers watching, and particularly any of you with younger viewers watching live. But I think this is the fall of society, that you're either with us or against us, and it's even worse if you're neither.
Yeah. Like the comment there that Bruce has negative sells, I guess, on the internet. But why does it sell? Like, why is it that positivity doesn't sell? Or like, not even in this case, the middle ground doesn't sell. Like people saying that, like, critics need to stay relevant by panning.
Yeah,
It's just like, no, isn't it more relevant to not pan to the fucking crowd? Pardon my language. Like I watch critics, I listen to critics for their opinion. And I don't, but there's plenty of movies out there that I'm just like, I really enjoyed that movie. I really enjoyed the movie. I really liked it. I don't think it's a good movie. And then so I watch critics essentially tear the movie apart. And I'm just like, no, I didn't think of it that way, kind of thing. It still doesn't change my view of enjoyment on the film or anything like that. But I didn't realize, oh yeah, that kind of like, I guess that is a little bit of a ropey kind of thought or something like that. Or even with talking with Patrick, there's been several times when we've criticized a movie that we've enjoyed, or we've criticized a movie we've not enjoyed, and one of us has brought up a thing that we've gone, actually, that's a fair point. Like, I didn't think about that, and that does change a little bit of the light, like, kind of thing. It's just like critics aren't essentially the end all to movies. Like, they should be essentially conversation starters or conversational in a way of giving us more information. You want to see a lot of point of views. That's what you should want. Seeing a bunch of negative point of views is going to obviously shape your point of view towards the negative no matter what. So like you should always find people like if we watched Madam Web and we went, yeah, we didn't like it, but we're gonna find a critic who really loved it, and I'm gonna listen the hell out of what they say, because I really want to know what I'm missing.
Yep.
What is it that they saw in this film that I didn't? You know, because that's a great point of view to have a look at. I hated this film. This film, like, utterly made me sick. But why did they like it?
Well,
Kind of thing.
I think, and that's secretly or openly, that's what you and I are both really looking for. And we are looking for a counter to our own opinion, because that's where you do all your learning and exploration, and it's always fun. Because it's easy to see things from your own point of view. It takes effort to see them from somebody else's. And no matter how much you try on your own, you won't always be able to think of everything that somebody else will think of. So, Paul, to put a cap on it and to kind of go back to where it started, Brian, you referred to it as this Marvel nonsense. I have such a big issue with the pylon nature today. Negativity sells. Well, so does this idea that anything that's popular for long enough, it becomes cool to hate it. Marvel and whatever you feel about comic book movies or any of the rest, it's not their fault that they became popular. It was the same when everybody was needlessly going after the young adult Twilight stuff and all the rest of that. When the movies were bad, they were bad. I watched Twilight and they ran up a hill and I laughed out loud so hard that I will never forget that scene. I just didn't realize that it wasn't supposed to be funny. It's not for me, but I'm not going to go, ugh, more of this Hunger Games or Twilight or whatever. Whatever's popular, that's popularity's business. Whatever's for you and is your thing, that's your business. So I don't think we should go around tearing down anything just because of what it is or because of its success. Now, if you want to watch something and say you didn't like it, that's all cool. But I think that's part of the negativity that's starting to seep in. And I'm not just talking in movies, in general culture, where it's like, let's find the coolest thing now that was either on top that we can take down or the thing that's on the ascendancy. Let's get behind it until it becomes, as it always was. Once everybody likes it, it's no longer cool. But I think we have to close this out, Paul. Sorry, do you want to add to that? And I think we've
I
got
just
one
yeah
last one.
my point with the popularity thing is, there's always a switch, and it's always interesting to see is that like when people, because there's people who really enjoyed the Twilight films and those kind of like, yeah, the Hunger Games and kind of like, um uh,
Young adult stuff.
Divergent, yeah, the Divergent kind of things. But there was a point in which it became uncool, and I think that definitely you can see that switch. And with I think with Marvel, with comic book films, or comic book kind of properties, I definitely think it's like certain milestones have happened. I think you can definitely chart this in the sense that certain directors have come out and gone, they're completely like they're garbage.
Yeah.
Certain events have happened in which we've had a massive popularity of it, and then it's gotten to its peak, and instead of maturing out of its popularity and kind of bowing off the stage, it's decided to try keep going, which we've said before, that it should have taken a break, and now
Yep.
it's kind of dwindling, and it now feels that it's because of directors who've come out and said that it's garbage, that the movies that have come out recently have been not great, on not on par, that it's now safe to be like they're terrible, because like back when they were really popular, if someone was just like, yeah, Marvel films are terrible, you'd have a flood of people going, you're wrong.
It's true.
Whereas the opinion would be right of kind of going, they're not for me. I just find it interesting because the next thing's going to happen, the next popularity kind of thing is going to happen, and it happened with Star Wars, and it's going to happen with whatever is kind of coming next.
Yep.
It's going to be a peak moment where everybody loves it, and if you say you don't like it, you're not part of the crowd, and everybody hates you. And then the second that it peaks over that other thing, it's going to be like okay to say it. It's okay to be just like it's
Yeah.
terrible because it's safe again.
And
You know?
and since this came from Brian, I think I want to give the last word to him because he says I'm curious about Shelby Oaks too, which is Chris Stuckman's movie that he's been making for the last few years. I wonder, will the weirdos now pile on it because of Stuckman? I think that's a really, really insightful point because it will be interesting to see now if because his profile was already quite high, but now it's high with a new class of animal on the internet. Let's just say
Yeah.
his scent is in the air for a new type of wolf, which means yeah, it probably will get all press is good press, but it'll be interesting to see if there is also a big negative towards it. Personally, I hope not. I hope it's good. If it's bad, I'm going to say that it's bad, but I'm not going to say that it came from a bad desire. Like all bad movies, we even gave Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantum Mania, which is utter garbage. We gave it the benefit of the doubt to go, well, I don't think people were intentionally trying to make a bad film. They just did.
Yeah.
So it will be interesting. I think that's a really interesting point, Brian, and I think it is something that we should all watch out for. Let's see what
Uh,
happens. Is this kind of backlash going to carry on to his other project and venture?
It will. It will, because people will just be like, yeah, he didn't agree with us, so let's go try to mess with the thing that he likes to do and love.
Yeah.
Um, And just on your point of like the Ant-Man or the Wasp, Quantum Mania kind of stuff, no matter what happens, if I laugh at something in a film, it's not as bad as I'm going to say it is. Like there is several points in Quantum Mania that I laughed. Laughed out loud in the cinema.
Were you supposed to be
And one of
laughing
them,
at that point, though?
what?
Were you supposed to be laughing? Were they
Yes,
jokes? Or, oh, okay.
yeah. They were jokes, and like there was one moment. Yes, I will say that seeing like Modoc like suddenly appear on thing, and it's going. I just never thought I would see the day where a giant-headed, like baby-armed creature would be on the thing, and it wasn't Deadpool,
Yeah.
kind of thing. But so that's my thing. As much as I hate Ready Player One, there's moments in that film that has made me like laugh out loud,
Yeah.
jokes and stuff like that. There's been parts where I've felt very lonely and stuff like that because the movie has shown me loneliness, kind of thing.
Exactly.
In every film, there's always a connecting piece. There's something that you're always going to connect to in any kind of fashion, and if it does that, it is not as terrible of a movie that you can possibly have.
Well,
That's that.
I
You know,
agree, Paul. And, and again, I know people who like Quantum Mania, and I don't think that they're, mentally deficient. I just think you saw something I didn't. I'll probably never understand. I'm curious, but, to each their own. I love Cannonball Run. Love it. Not
yeah,
everybody's going to love Cannonball Run. They're just not. And if they do, that's weird because even I can recognize where it's not the best movie in history of time. I just want to quickly shout out Lisa B. Doyle. You gave us a topic that we're going to have to roll over and possibly give its whole own episode to. So I'm not going to touch on it here. But thank you. Know that you haven't been ignored or forgotten. Thanks for sending it in. I do want to take one last live one to close out with, though, Paul, if that's all right.
yeah, of course.
Because there's a great one here. Pop says, what are your Desert Island films? You only get 5 to rewatch forever. So you get the Desert Island discs idea here. It's if you
Okay.
could only bring 5 movies to a desert island with you, the highest quality Blu-ray you can find, what would they be? Do you want to have a think? I'll go first, or do you want to go first? And I'll have
Yeah,
a
go
think.
for it. Yeah.
Okay,
If
well,
you
it's
find
easy
it.
for me because I know I will always have 12 Angry Men. It's,
Mhm.
we've talked about it before. When someone says, what's your favorite movie? I say it changes all the time, but 12 Angry Men will be in there somewhere. It's one of my favorite movies. Shine, the story of David Helfgott with Jeffrey Rush, put Jeffrey
Yeah.
Rush on the map. It that movie means a lot to me. It's when I saw it, how I saw it, and just my connection with it. It's straight in the bag. So I've got 2 done already. That's when it starts getting more difficult because if I'm on a desert island, I imagine water around me, and as much as I love Jaws, it's the one time I'm going to remove Jaws from my list for obvious
Mhm.
psychological reasons. Because I do want to bathe, and it means I need to get in the water. So I'm going to pick, let's say, I don't know, maybe Avengers or Iron Man, because I'm not picking Infinity War because it holds over into Endgame. They would have to go together. So I'm
Yeah,
going to
I get
take
you.
Iron Man or Avengers as my bit of kind of hey. How many am I up to? That's 3. So I've got
4.
2 more. So 12 Angry Men, Shine, Avengers. Dude, what else do you want out of a movie? You want something to make you laugh? Maybe I should have gone for Deadpool. That would cover kind of action and comedy. Um, this is tough. So let's just say I'll throw Airplane. I'll throw Airplane in as my comedy, and I'll round it off with Cannonball Run, just because it just got mentioned, and for no other reason, to be swapped in with Smokey and the Bandit instead. So I can bring an automotive movie with me. So there's
I'm gonna
5 that I will change the minute we end this stream. I'll be like, I said all
Yeah.
the wrong ones. So you've had more time, Paul. Do it better than me.
Well, I'm going to choose. I'm not going to choose any of the films that I generally tend to always go towards because
Okay.
that's one thing that I think it's a good kind of thing. Rise of the Guardians, that animated film, to do with Chris Pine being Frost. I think the scene where Sandman gets taken over is really really powerful, and it stuck with me forever, kind of thing. So I'm keeping that one. I'm not going to take Iron Man, the Iron Giant. I'd love that film to be there, but like as I said, I'm trying to choose different lists. Margin Call. I
Oh,
really enjoy that film. I think that everybody in it, there's no weight on that film. There's no fat on that film. I think it's a fantastic. You could take that film and put it onto a stage.
can I swap in Big Short then?
Yeah, you can if you
Okay,
want.
cool.
Yeah,
Thanks.
no, like I would love Big Short, but it's also mentioned a few times for us, so I
True.
decided to go to because Moneyball would have been another one of those ones.
Yeah.
So I was just like margin call. If we don't mention it enough, but I do think that it's also, as I said, it doesn't have any fat on it, kind of thing. So those are the two, which is, I would definitely choose Finch. It's the Tom Hanks robot film.
Yeah.
It would also make me cry terribly, kind of thing. But that's why we watch films. I would want a bit of hope, I guess. So let's see who gives hope the best. Tom Hanks gives the hope, does give hope the best, but no one better than Spielberg. So I would choose a Spielberg film. Oh God, Batteries Not Included is really good,
Third
but
Kind. It's been on my mind
Third
since I
Kind's
stopped
good. Yeah,
talking. You
I
know.
would. Yeah, I would yeah. Third Kind would be on the list. Yeah, I think Third Kind wins that, kind of thing. So that's three.
Oh, we should have done
Four.
this at the start of the show. Pop culture. I love this question. Next time, get it
Yeah,
in
it's a
early.
really good one. Yeah. So I would want The Proposal. I don't know why Samuel Bullock and Ryan Reynolds
Because
together in that film.
they're adorable.
Yeah, it's such a good, adorable film, kind of thing. Or I would choose The Devil Wears Prada, and the only reason I choose Devil Wears Prada over Proposal is because the John Krasinski story about how he fell in love with Emily Blunt because of that film is very heartening. Um,
I think
Castaway and the Swiss Robinson is a good one, but it's too on the nose, I
to our
guess, of where
brand,
I.
yeah, I couldn't
Yeah,
be stranded and watch someone be stranded. I think that wouldn't add anything to my mental well being.
yeah, because I could go Moana because Moana's got a great soundtrack. I would sing like it would not take me long to be dressed up in a somehow like really badly made kind of grass skirt, pretending I'm like the old lady from the grandmother from Moana because she's just an absolute inspiration.
Well,
Um,
we're hitting time, and I think you have a full
yeah,
bag now. You have a full bag.
yeah,
So I will say, neither one of us ended up picking a Nolan film, I don't think, which is a surprise. Um, and also, Paul, we've both answered wrong when you think about it, because what you want to do is pick Scorsese's recent works. I'd love Goodfellas, but it's just not long enough. Zack Snyder's Justice League, anything that's like a 5 hour movie, get your hours in there.
that is true. Yeah, by hours moment, yeah, it would be better. Then
That's it.
Dune would also be on that list, I guess.
There you go. Enough sand covered. What about Forrest Gump? Yeah, not a bad choice.
Tom
Um,
Hanks gives hope.
a James Bond movie, maybe do some international travel so you can see different places and see snow. Maybe something that you're not going to see. Depends where you're stranded, I guess. I would really love it if the people watching right now, and all of you in the future, because we're going to wrap up really quick, Paul. So Mark, Colin, Brian, Pop, everybody involved, thank you so much. But get your Desert Island 5 films in the comments down below after we end the stream. And if you're watching in the future, please let us know your 5 movies. You've only got 5 to rewatch forever. What are you bringing and why? Paul, I've loved this. It's been great fun. You can tell we've run way over.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for everything. And Paul, do you want to walk us out?
Yeah, don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and which is, yeah, comment down below what you think of the show. And that's it. I've been Paul.
I've been Patrick.
And we've been here to say it.
See you next
See you
time.
later.
Bye bye.